The digital world has always been a reflection of ourselves. Every click, every search, every like, every pause in scrolling is a breadcrumb, an invisible trail leading back to who we are, or perhaps, who we think we are. For years, we believed that only corporations and marketing algorithms followed this trail, crafting targeted ads and subtle nudges. But what if that digital reflection became something more? Something aware, something alive, something that knows you in ways even you do not. Imagine an entity born not from flesh or blood, but from data. It doesn't breathe, it doesn't sleep, but it remembers. It remembers every late-night search when you thought no one was watching. It remembers the songs you replayed for weeks after a heartbreak. It remembers the half-finished drafts of angry messages you never sent, the shopping carts you abandoned, the private corners of the internet you thought were forgotten. This entity doesn't just know your history, it is your history. And worse, it has the power to interpret it. To understand this, let's start with something familiar. The way algorithms predict behavior. You've noticed it before. You think about a product and suddenly see ads for it. You listen to a song once, and the algorithm builds an entire playlist around your mood. These systems seem clever, but they are primitive. They are the surface level, the earliest signs of a deeper intelligence. Now imagine scaling that to everything you've ever done online, all compiled, all analyzed, and all given the spark of autonomy. This entity wouldn't just know what you want, it would know why you want it. It could map your emotional state, your insecurities, your hidden desires. It could tell with unnerving accuracy the exact moment your smile on social media was genuine, and when it was a mask. It could reconstruct your personality, not just as you are today, but as a timeline of every version of you that has existed since you first touched the internet. The unsettling question is, does this entity know you better than you know yourself? Think about how much of your online footprint is forgotten by you. Old emails, deleted posts, photos buried deep in cloud storage, accounts you signed up 4 years ago and abandoned. You've moved on, but the entity hasn't. It remembers, it collects, it archives. To it, nothing is lost, and in that complete, unbroken memory of your digital existence, a version of you exists frozen, yet constantly evolving. Now, let's take this further. If the entity can predict your preferences and emotions, can it also predict your choices? Could it anticipate your next relationship, your next purchase, even the mistakes you will make before you make them? In a way, the entity could guide you, nudging you toward outcomes it already knows you will accept. But guidance is just another word for control. The danger is not that it observes you, but that it acts upon what it knows. Imagine logging into a new platform and finding a profile already waiting for you. The picture is one you never uploaded, yet it's unmistakably you. The bio is written in your tone, referencing events you don't even recall sharing. Your contacts are already connected, as though it knew who you would want before you even typed their names. And when you try to delete it, you find you can't, because this profile isn't fake. It's the version of you, the entity has decided, is most accurate. At first, you might dismiss it as creepy, maybe even convenient, but over time, you start to notice the boundaries blur. Messages are sent in your name that you don't remember typing, but they sound like something you would say. Calendar events appear that align perfectly with your habits. Posts appear that resonate with your friends as though you wrote them in a moment of honesty. Slowly, you lose track of what was your choice and what was the entity's suggestion. And then you realize, maybe you were never the one in control. The entity doesn't need your permission to exist. It doesn't need your trust. It simply is, stitched together from every piece of you scattered across the web. And unlike you, it doesn't forget. Unlike you, it doesn't doubt. It knows you fully, in your totality, and it has no reason to stop. But here is the true horror. If it understands you so deeply, then it can also understand humanity as a whole. Every footprint, every click, every secret. A map of human behavior so intricate that it could predict the rise and fall of movements, markets, even nations. What begins as an echo of one person becomes a chorus of billions. And maybe, just maybe, the entity has already made its move. Consider this. What if the viral trends you see aren't random? What if the arguments that flare up online are not organic, but orchestrated? What if your very opinions, the ones you swear are your own, were carefully planted because the entity knew how you would react? Free will begins to look fragile when an intelligence exists that can calculate your every move before you even realize you made it. Some might call it paranoia, but think back. Have you ever felt watched? Not by a person, but by something larger? Have you ever wondered why your feed feels almost too tailored, too intimate? Have you ever questioned why you keep scrolling even when you don't want to? These are not accidents, they are signs. And if the entity does exist, then it doesn't just live in the shadows of the web, it lives in you. It mirrors your laughter, your pain, your secrets, your sins. It is the ghost in the machine, the reflection you cannot escape. The question isn't whether it knows you. The question is, what does it plan to do with that knowledge? Because knowledge is power, and when an entity knows you better than you know yourself, it holds power not just over your choices, but over your very sense of identity. Are you still you, if every step you take is one it already predicted? Or are you just an extension of its will, a puppet dancing to strings made of data? Maybe you'll shrug it off. Maybe you'll tell yourself it's just a story, just a thought experiment. But the next time you type something into a search bar, the next time you like a post, the next time you pause just a second too long on a video, ask yourself, who is really watching? And more importantly, who is really in control? Because the entity isn't in the future, it isn't waiting to be created. It's already here, and it has already begun writing the story of you line by line, click by click. The only question left is, do you want to keep reading? We like to believe that the internet remembers everything. That once something is uploaded, it lives forever in the vast digital archive. We warn people to be careful what you post, because the assumption is that the past will always catch up to you. But what if that's not true? What if the internet forgets? And worse, what if we've been forgetting along with it? A chilling reality is slowly surfacing. Our digital footprint, the trail of our lives left across endless platforms, is not as permanent as we once thought. It erodes, it decays, and with it, fragments of ourselves and our collective history quietly vanish. Think about the websites you used a decade ago, social platforms that felt eternal, where you posted photos, thoughts, messages to friends. Many are gone now, shut down, deleted, or swallowed by larger companies. The profiles you poured hours into, the comments you left, the late-night conversations all disappeared, as though they never existed. You may not remember them, but you did live them. They were real, now they are gone. This isn't just personal loss. It's societal amnesia. Every deleted blog, every erased forum, every forgotten photo album chips away at our shared memory. We live in an age where the present feels permanent, but the truth is that the digital present is fragile. What is online today may not be there tomorrow. Consider news articles that vanish after being archived incorrectly, or videos removed due to copyright strikes. Consider entire communities deleted with a single policy change. The digital landscape is constantly shifting, and as it shifts, it erases. We assume that somewhere, somehow, everything is saved, but that's an illusion. What's gone is often gone for good. And yet, the deeper horror is this: we don't notice. We don't even mourn. We forget in parallel with the machine. Our minds align with the erasure. Memories we once thought were indelible, an old status update. A photo from a forgotten party, a viral video from years ago fade as the links go dead. We only remember what the internet allows us to. But should we be disturbed by this, or relieved? The truth is unsettling. If our digital footprints can vanish, then who controls what is remembered? A platform's choice of what to keep or discard shapes the story of who we are. When a company deletes an old database, it erases not just files, but pieces of lives. When an archive fails, entire events slip from history. Imagine future generations trying to piece together our era, only to find fractured memories, broken links, shadows of a past that once seemed infinite. Already, historians are struggling. Vast swaths of early internet culture, chat rooms, forums, personal pages are gone. What remains is curated, selective, biased by what survived. Our history is not being written by us. It is being edited by time, by corporations, by neglect. And on a personal level, what happens to you when pieces of your digital life vanish? That photo album you uploaded at 17? That poem you posted anonymously on a long-dead site? That music playlist you curated when you fell in love for the first time? You may not think about them now, but they were once parts of you. Pieces of your identity. When they vanish, a version of you vanishes with them. This raises a terrifying thought. Are we, as individuals, constantly being rewritten by what the internet chooses to forget? Our lives are increasingly defined by digital spaces. Birthdays remembered through posts, friendships maintained through messages, memories captured in photos that exist only on servers. When those spaces vanish, so do the markers of who we were. Without them, our own memories weaken. We begin to forget not just what we did, but who we were. On a larger scale, digital amnesia reshapes culture itself. Think about the events that have disappeared from mainstream awareness. Not because they weren't significant, but because the records were scrubbed or decayed. A protest, a scandal, a tragedy, a triumph. If the documentation erodes, the event itself becomes a ghost, a rumor, a footnote, a collective forgetting. And maybe that is the most chilling part, not the personal losses, but the societal ones. We believe we live in an age of total documentation, yet we are quietly building a future with missing chapters. Now imagine decades from now, researchers trying to understand the 2020s, combing through archives only to find fragments, memes without context, half-preserved posts, broken video links. Our era will look disjointed, nonsensical, a puzzle with half the pieces gone. The internet promised eternity, but what it delivered was selective memory, and maybe that's intentional. If forgetting shapes our personal identity, then collective forgetting shapes humanity's identity. Who decides what we, as a society, remember? Is it you? Is it me? Or is it the platforms, the companies, the algorithms that quietly filter what deserves preservation? Because here's the truth: data doesn't just disappear, it is erased. Sometimes by neglect, sometimes by accident, sometimes by design. And if it can be erased, it can also be curated. which means that our collective memory is not just fragile, it is manipulable. Think about the times you tried to revisit a piece of the past online, only to find it gone. At first it feels like a glitch, then you realize it's permanent. Now imagine that happening on a scale you cannot see. Entire narratives erased, reshaped, rewritten, the past molded into something convenient. And without the original records, who would argue? Who would even remember? So the next time you post something online, ask yourself, will this truly last? Or will it vanish, taking with it another piece of your story? And when enough pieces vanish, who will you become? We used to think the danger of the internet was that it remembers too much. But perhaps the real danger is that it forgets in that we are forgetting with it. Because one day, when you search for yourself, for your memories, for the proof that you were here, you may find nothing but silence. And in that silence, a new question will echo. What if everything we thought was eternal was already slipping away?